Back to the phones we go. Hello, John. Welcome to The Conspiracy Show.
I had an incident where I realized that this had been done to me before.
All right. And so you suspect that you may have had, in fact, a past life experience.
Yes, that did cross my mind.
And welcome to The Conspiracy Show, Carrie. You're on the line with Paul Von Wart.
We do reincarnate. Whatever you know that is true is true.
Welcome aboard, Doug.
I think a lot of it probably has to do with the subconscious mind, and the subconscious lets this out. They may think that, hey, I was here at one time, I've had a past life.
All right, thanks for the call. Welcome to The Conspiracy Show. My name is Richard Syrett. Roughly 1/4 of the world's population believes in reincarnation. Believing we've lived previous lives is one thing, but actually believing that we can remember or experience those previous incarnations is quite another. So is it possible to remember previous lives? According to practitioners of past life regression therapy, an increasingly popular technique that uses hypnosis, the answer is a resounding yes. But how exactly does past life regression therapy work? Is the subject under hypnosis actually remembering and experiencing a past life? And are these memories of past lives actual people? Can they be substantiated with documented proof like birth and marriage certificates or a grave marker? Comedian Woody Allen once said he was troubled by the prospect of reincarnation because it meant he'd have to sit through the ice capades again. Me? I'm not troubled by reincarnation. I want to know more. I want to know the truth. Friends, it is time to rudely engage reality. Past life regression therapy works this way. A subject is placed under hypnosis. While under hypnosis, is allegedly able to recover memories of past lives. It's very controversial. Dr. Brian Weiss, a mainstream psychoanalyst, first made this therapy popular, and now it has thousands of practitioners around the world. Does it work? Well, that's up for dispute. We're going to actually witness a past life regression therapy with a young woman named Candace and her past life regression therapist, Deborah Skye. Of course, we'll also speak to a skeptic who's not convinced past life regression therapy actually works. The rest, well, that'll be up for you to decide. Gordon Finn is the no BS guru. Welcome to The Conspiracy Show, Gordon.
Thanks, Richard. Glad to be here.
What exactly is past life regression therapy?
That is where someone will come to me with a perceived problem, a perceived issue, a recurring dream that troubles them, and we will use various techniques, including relaxation and visualization exercises, to go backwards in time and space and access the previous life or previous lives in which that problem originally occurred.
Give me an example of the most exceptional case that you've been involved with during a past life regression.
One that comes to mind right now is a woman who came to see me at the difficult end of a long marriage, wanting to try and discover some of the sources of the troubles between her and her husband. And when I regressed her, she found herself at the American Civil War and in a battle, and the soldiers moved toward each other. She wound up in hand-to-hand combat with a Confederate soldier. I said, "Do you recognize this soldier?" And she said, "Yes, it's my husband." A death occurred, and she was the victor in that particular fight. But when I asked her later, you know, that's pretty dramatic, but does that help you understand some of the difficulties, quote-unquote difficulties you're having with your husband? And she said, "Oh yes, very definitely."
I'm anxious to learn more about remembering and experiencing a past life, and to find out whether a past life regression can actually help someone deal with their present-day psychological, emotional, or physiological problems. So we're in Toronto to meet another noted regression therapist.
Can you explain how a past life regression can help someone deal with a psychological problem?
Okay, I'm going to give an example of a young man who is 36 in this lifetime. And he went back to German and Nazi, and he was one of the gentlemen who actually chauffeured people into the gas chambers, experiencing a lot of emotional dysfunction today. But that was what he was doing, and it was what he did. But even though the emotional guilt and everything else that came along with it impacted him so strongly that today that guilt still laid deep within. And in this regression, we're able to pinpoint where it came from, why, and that sadness didn't return. Your daughter?
She's screaming.
What's happening to her?
I don't know. She's not moving. She's hurt.
And what happened to her? Where's she hurt?
She's not moving.
Okay, now what do? You can just observe it and just watch what you're doing and just take a deep breath.
Let's talk about Candace's past life regression. Explain what she was experiencing during her regression.
What happened is she was in her early 20s, late teens, probably 19, 20, and she was living in the Deep South, early 1900s, and it was very impactful. She was doing laundry outside, hanging up laundry, and her young child was out in the fields, and she hadn't come in, and she went out to find her and found her lying down on the ground, not breathing. So what happens is that somebody is experiencing something that is happening today. That's why it's recurring. So the regression in the past life is repeating itself. What do you do with Essie?
I carry her.
Okay, good. You carry her.
She's not breathing. She's gone.
Okay. So Essie passed on?
I don't want to be here anymore.
Okay. Now I want you to move out of that body and be in spirit. And as you do, I want you to look at that lifetime and see if there's anything you need to forgive in that lifetime. The purpose of past life regression therapy is to release whatever trauma, experience, block that is present to free the individual today so they can get on with what they're doing here. Okay. Now are you ready? You're willing to forgive yourself in that lifetime?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now a full healing is taking place, okay? Because that was so strong in her body, in her memory, that why would she want to have a child when she knows that the child's going to die at a young age? Because that's still real to her, right? That's still present to her memory. So 50 minutes afterwards, after the regression was done, we were speaking, and she said, now I understand. Now I don't have that fear anymore. So the therapy and the therapeutic approach to the regression work is that you release the identity that you have with that lifetime and recognize that that was an emotional context that's in you, but it's not now. So the therapeutic approach is you release it. It's now gone, so now Candace is able to have a child without fear.
I don't know how you felt about what you just witnessed, but I'm convinced Candace wasn't faking it. That was a genuine experience. The question is, was she recovering a memory of the past, or is there some other scientific explanation?
People are not good at that situation. They tend to incorporate what they believe they should remember into their own memories, and they will defend those memories. It's a dangerous thing.
This is the University of Waterloo's School of Computer Science. I'm here to speak with Associate Professor Jeff Orchard. Jeff knows a lot about the human brain.
If patients feel that it is of some benefit and they are able to resolve certain issues, doesn't that then at least speak to the fact that it has some value?
So if people benefit, that's great. The question is, will most people benefit? Or is it possible for it to do harm? And I think the answer is a clear yes. In fact, in Israel, the Ministry of Health has banned its hypnotherapists from doing past life regression therapy because there have been a number of instances where there were negative outcomes.
Now, you will find other regressionists will tell you, particularly people that are trained hypnotists, they can take people to a much deeper level, where if they're in ancient Greece, they will sometimes speak in that language. But when you take them to that deep level, there is a certain amount of risk that if there's a trauma, they will experience the trauma on a deep level.
When you're experiencing something, if you have a shoulder pain, and you realize in a lifetime that you've been stabbed, and then afterwards the pain is eliminated. It's an emotional, physical experience.
For example, Jenny Cockle's case. As Jenny Cockle in this life in the 1970s, 80s, had recurring dreams of 8 children, and she tracked down maybe, I believe, 6 of her 8 children.
Believers in past lives point to 2 fairly high-profile cases. Talk to me about the James Leininger case.
So at first, when I first saw this, I was thinking, wow, how am I going to pull this apart? It just seemed so compelling.
Ah, right, the young boy in the States that remembered being the fighter pilot in World War II. Yes, that's a very strongly evidential one. He seems to remember the names of his colleagues in the squadron that he was in.
He starts having these nightmares about being in a plane crash and going down. He knows some facts that his parents can't explain. He knows about a plane called the Corsair.
And a tremendous amount of detail about the cockpits and the controls of the planes that he was flying in 1942. And he started remembering this when he was, I believe, 3 or 4.
And he knows about the little tank on the bottom. It's called the drop tank. And his parents couldn't explain how he would know this, or at least his mom couldn't.
And had obviously no intellectual knowledge of these planes at that time, and surprised his parents. And then
one of his family members, I believe his grandmother, suggested maybe he's remembering memories from a past life. So he started into past life regression therapy. You know, from that point, things really start picking up. He starts remembering the names. He's looking in a book on World War II with his dad. He says, that's the aircraft carrier that I flew off of, called Natoma. And I crashed here. It was Iwo Jima. And he names Jack Larson, who was apparently a friend of his in the previous life. And so all these things check out.
And it is strongly evidential as a case I've seen.
But apparently, something that you don't see when you first read the story is that a few months before he started having the airplane crash nightmares, his family took him to a World War II museum. And there was a Corsair on display there, and there were drop tanks there. So all these things he could have picked up there. I expect he did. Who can trust anything about memories or what he knows, what he doesn't know? It's very difficult in that sort of scenario to separate fact from fiction.
Talk to me about the Jenny Cockle case.
This is one of the big headline cases for reincarnation and past life memories. She believes that she was reincarnated, and she lived originally as Merhi in Ireland.
And as Jenny Cockle in this life in the 1970s, 80s, had recurring dreams of this small cottage in Ireland. 8 children, not very wealthy, was advised by the doctor, do not have another child. Did have another child and died in childbirth.
Jenny Cockle went to a hypnotherapist, I believe, past life regression therapy, and started sketching out maps of the town that she lived in. And she went on this search. What town was it? She wanted to find out more.
And then I believe she lived in England, Northern England at the time. She felt it was somewhere southwest of Dublin, and she did find it.
Through contacting other people, she found a town that roughly matched, and they found a woman named Mary Sutton, I believe was her name.
And she tracked down maybe, I believe, 6 of her 8 children who were then men in their 70s and 80s, and felt very strongly that this was her children growing up.
And so for her, this was proof that she was reincarnated. And the problem with this kind of thing is that it's called confirmation bias. She looks for evidence and forgets anything that doesn't support her belief. Science doesn't work this way. We don't just select the facts we want and present those. Imagine if a drug company collected all the people that showed positive results and presented those to the public and said, see, our product works. So that would be severely criticized in the scientific arena.
Convince me that consciousness survives physical death.
Okay, well, this is a good one. Without your spirit, you are nothing. You can't live without spirit. You're just your flesh, you're an organic matter. So you are a spirit, and you are existing with pure consciousness already. It's just that your singular mind and ego experiences this one-dimensional framework.
What do you think happens at the moment of physical death? What happens to consciousness and the soul?
Well, there's 2 paths we can go here. And in the case of a sudden death, the consciousness is shot out of the body instantaneously, and usually to another point in the room. So basically, you've got a dead person here and a ghost over here, and a ghost that does not understand what has happened at all because they have died instantly and they still feel very much alive.
The idea that energy can be neither created nor destroyed, consciousness then might be able to survive physical death. What are your thoughts on that?
Energy is something that you can measure, and so energy flows through us in that sense. So to call consciousness energy and apply conservation of energy to it, I don't think consciousness and energy are linked in any way deeper than that.
Are you able to verify that past life, proof that that person actually existed?
The data that we have found has been exceptional, exceptional.
Reincarnation, the idea that we live, then die, then live again. This old tractor looks like a John Deere, something like my great-grandfather sold 80 or 90 years ago. Is it possible that the gentleman farmer that rode this tractor and then died is alive again, living somewhere under a new identity?
Are you able to verify that past life through research, finding proof that that person actually existed?
Yes, we can. We have. We have done that. I particularly don't go into the research because I'm already engaged with what I'm doing. That doing the research would probably be a long process of me going in, and I don't find it important particularly myself because there's nothing for me to believe. I already know what's going on. For people who do want to know that out, they will ask for dates, they will ask for locations, and because of today's technology, we're able to just Google anything.
Do you think that past life regression therapists are frauds?
Fraud suggests like a purposeful deceit. I would expect that a lot of them also believe that it's true.
Okay, cards on the table. When it comes to past lives, let's just say I'm firmly entrenched in the skeptics camp. I believe that you live once, and if you do it right, that's more than enough. Then I witnessed the past life regression of young Candace. Her emotions and her pain seemed all too real.
She's gone.
Okay. So as you passed on?
The information from Candace's past life regression is sometimes vague. It's like searching for the proverbial needle in the haystack.
It's a difficult thing to monitor how, when you're suggesting memories to someone and asking them to recall memories that might be quite vague in the first place. People are not good at that situation. They tend to incorporate what they believe they should remember. into their own memories, and they will defend those memories. So past life regression therapy is it's a dangerous thing.
Still, the James Leininger case remains compelling, and there are dozens and dozens of equally compelling case studies where people, especially young children, have remarkably accurate details of past lives.
Well, most simply, we reincarnate if and when we're ready to reincarnate. The average time out of the physical plane before you come back is 70 years. You will reincarnate in a general wave with those that you knew 70 to 100 years before.
And while I'm not convinced that one can dismiss the past life phenomenon as a false memory, the therapist's power of suggestion, or a trick of the mind, I'm not quite ready to pull up stakes and move into the firm believers camp either. I am willing to consider more evidence and follow the truth, wherever it may lead. And now, I'd like to know what you have to say. You can get a hold of us here at The Conspiracy Show through the website, www.theconspiracyshow.com. In the meantime, don't be afraid. There's nothing concealed that won't be revealed, and nothing hidden that won't be made known. What you hear in the dark, speak in the light. And what I say in a whisper, proclaim from the housetops. Move over, Aphrodite. I'm coming home.